Hello and welcome to Happy Cells and Souls. My name is Julie Powers and I'm a licensed Zumba instructor and I'm a business affiliate with the Juice Plus company. And my missions in life are to help people know that life is better when you're dancing through it and to inspire healthy living around the world. But my expanded mission is to create better health at the cellular level and more joy at the cellular level. We only get one body while we're here. We better take care of it. And we're supposed to be joyful and happy and bring more light and love into this world. And that's one thing about these videos that I like to record because I get to talk to really fascinating people who bring so much light and love into the world. And I just love to share these stories with you, whoever happens to be watching. And today I get to talk with Ania Volovique. And I met Ania just a couple months ago, and it was a fantastic experience getting to talk with her and learn about her story. I've only heard like the tip of the iceberg, I'm pretty sure. And so in this 20 minutes, we're going to even hear a tinier tip of the iceberg, but it's such a fascinating story about how she has learned to like live her own life for real, and to help other people learn how to live their own lives and to really get in touch with their souls. So Ania, I am just going to open this up and let you share your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. So my story, it's so interesting when people ask that because we all have a story to tell. And I feel like my story begins at the choice point when I finally chose myself. So I was living on the outside as what it seemed like the American dream. I had a great job, secure job, and I was married and I had a house and a dog, like the whole thing of what we are taught from the moment that we are becoming adults. So externally, it looked really good, but internally, it felt like I was suffocating. And there were all of these lies that were coming to the surface that I was pretending not to notice. And then there was one point when I went away to a retreat to Dominican Republic. And because I was away from my environment, I finally saw the extreme situation that I was living in and how actually that wasn't my dream. Yes, it was the American dream, but it wasn't my dream. So when I came back, I changed every single aspect of my life that wasn't working, that wasn't in true alignment and congruency to who I truly was. So what did I do? I quit my job. I started my business. I asked for a divorce and separated from my husband, and then started this huge project called Discovering Wings, which combined two things that I loved and I was really passionate about: photography and travel. So I'm traveling across the country, photographing and interviewing mothers and really giving back and interviewing how they chose to live on their own terms. And that shifted and grew into a bigger project. So let me know if you want me to pause here or if you want me to continue on to Paris.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to explain, when you said you started a journey to photograph and talk with mothers, where were you at the time and what was your journey going to look like? Because it was like a cross-country trip, right? And you said you started your business, but can you explain a little bit about what your business was and why this fit into it?
Yeah, so I was for probably 5 years up until that point, I've had this dream of becoming a photographer. I was a talent manager at the time, and I was managing actors, models, and photographers and looking at them as like, oh, if only one day, maybe, like in another lifetime, maybe, because it's too late. I was 25.
Oh yeah,
So
it's so late at 25,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, so at 25, I thought it was too late to change my path and choose something else. So finally, at 29, that's when I decided that it's not too late. And instead of waiting for one day, I decided that one day is going to be today. So I started my photography business, and I call it started a business, but really I just claimed that I'm a photographer. I began photographing my friends, but then this project really was birthed, which was all about, and even the name Discovering Wings, it signified it was like from the metaphor of a butterfly, how, it goes from the caterpillar into the butterfly and it discovers that it has wings. And so often I felt like mothers see themselves stuck in a caterpillar, going through their own birth and rebirth process, but then not realizing that they're actually butterflies as well. And then at some point, something happens, usually not so great, that they discover their wings, and then they start to fly.
Right.
The
So
entire project.
yeah,
Yeah.
you captured that in your own wings. You started flying across the country, not flying, but driving, right? And you were taking pictures and capturing these beautiful stories along the way, which then propelled you into the next part of your story.
Yeah, and so initially the project was all photographing mothers as a way to give back. And as I started traveling and meeting these butterflies, as I called them, they began sharing their story. So the project transmuted itself into this photojournalistic project. So it was no longer just about the photos, it became more so about the stories behind the photos. So when I began traveling, I was living in New York. So I went from New York to California and back over a month and a half. And then when I came back to New York, I had this expansive, amazing, beautiful experience. And then I came back to New York and I felt like zombies are walking around. Literally, everybody was on the phone, very dark, and I felt like I was expanded and blasted into the universe and just saw everybody as their true self, as the light of their being. And all of a sudden, I'm just transported back into, I don't know, a warehouse. And for a long time also, I've wanted to live in Paris. That was like my vision, my big dream. So after this beautiful experience, I came back to New York and I felt like something was missing. The project was not over, and one day of living in Paris doesn't have to remain being one day. So I decided once again that instead of waiting for one day, today is going to be that day. So I bought a one-way ticket to Paris without knowing anyone there, without knowing the language. I knew a few words, but not enough even to have a conversation. I didn't have any money. I had $300 to my name with no credit cards, no sugar daddy, no parental support. Like literally,
you just threw all caution to the wind and you said, seize the day, carpe diem, let's go. What are you going to show me?
Literally.
That's so brave. I mean, who has enough courage to do something like that? So few people. And you did it, and you did it with gusto, and it was a transformative experience for you.
Yeah, and when I look back and often talk about the story, what stands out is the power of being naive. Because only when we are so naive, in the best sense possible, kind of like a child, the child doesn't know what he or she doesn't know. They just they think of infinite possibilities. Anything is possible. So when I was flying from New York to Paris with just a dream and a prayer, I literally had this innocence within me and also this passion. And these two components, what created what happened next, which never in my wildest dreams I would have imagined of it turning out the way that it did.
All right, so tell us really quickly what happened next. We all want to know.
So once I arrived in Paris, I had a place to stay. Serendipitously, a friend of a friend offered me a place to stay for 2 weeks. Then I continued couch surfing, and I was talking about my vision to everybody who could hear. And I started connecting with a lot of people who started introducing me to more and more people. So eventually I got a job at the only English-speaking bar in Paris. And eventually I got my own place. And I continued traveling throughout Europe for the next 2 years. So this one dream, with this one little vision that I had of just giving back and photographing beautiful women across the country, turned it into a 2-year project spanning 14 countries and over 100 people.
Yeah. And so when you did that, you were learning, like you were putting the foundation in place to come back to the United States as your true self with your big, beautiful wings out there, flying in, landing in Colorado, and creating a business, your photography business, around that same theory, that same plan is to help other people find their wings, right?
Well, at the time, I had no idea that that's what I was doing. At
Yeah,
the
but it
time,
was laying that foundation, right?
right, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, because when I came back, then I decided, okay, like what's next? And that's when I really focused on following my own path, even more so. So for the past 10 years, it's been 10 years in the making. That's what I've been doing, not just photographing people, but really capturing their souls and then tying in somatic work, tying it coaching. So that way it's this very holistic approach where I'm not just photographing you, I'm creating a transformational experience where the soul of your brand, the soul of your business comes to the forefront. And then as a result, you transform the world in your own unique way while also dancing. Maybe not to Zumba, but still dancing.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I've seen a lot of your videos and I love your joy. I love your, your effervescence and the light that just radiates from you. And so I know that you bring that to each of the sessions with your clients. I had the honor of being in one of your online presentations that was over a weekend. And you have a really uncanny ability to get kind of right into the heart of the matter on a lot of different topics of, helping people really put the magnifying glass on the inside. And so I can only imagine, I don't live in Colorado, so I wouldn't be able to come and have my picture taken very easily. But the clients that you work with, you go through all of this with them very extensively so that when you finally have them right there in front of you, you're not just seeing let's take a picture. You are seeing into their soul so that you can capture those wings in the picture almost, right? So do you want to talk a little bit about that? We have a few minutes left. So yeah, let's hear all about that.
Yeah. Well, another big part of my story that we're not going to get into now, but it is important to mention, is that 4 years ago, I went through a brain cancer experience. And despite what the doctors were predicting of literally not living more than a year, I was able to heal myself without any chemo radiation. So that really transformed my journey from only focusing on just this one path ahead of me, but really seeing the importance of the mind and body connection and somatic healing work. So what I've been doing since then is not only coaching, but also and running group programs and all of that, but at the same time tying in the somatic work, the embodiment work, along with the photography, but not just the photography, but more of the soul expression, which doesn't necessarily have to do just when you're in person with people. A lot of this work can also be done online. And there's a lot of deep work that could be done online, especially when you tie in this very holistic approach.
Well, I love that you're looking at the whole person. And I know that part of your story is so huge because people don't really understand the way that the mind can change the rest of the body. And you were talking about before you thought it was way too late to start your life, and there were all these things that weren't in place and weren't in alignment. That kind of thinking, those feelings that you're not really being true to yourself, probably were the beginning of that brain cancer, right? There was something that started the cancer. And so once you figured out how to fix yourself from your soul level, you were able to turn that around in the most miraculous way. So I think that's really amazing.
Yeah, I believe that any transformation and healing on all the levels begins internally. So we can't only look at the surface level or just identify like, oh, if this hurts, that means that something is wrong. No, the body is communicating with us always. And if we want any type of transformation, whether in our personal life or in our professional life, we have to look deeper. And even like for a lot of my clients are entrepreneurs. So for their business and for the impact to really succeed, we have to look deeper as to what are your thoughts, what are your patterns, and how do they contribute in one way or another to the way that you show up in the world.
Right, right. So what would you like to tell people if you had 5 minutes, which you have 5 minutes. So what if you had 5 minutes to explain to somebody how impactful this work can be for them? Like really, if somebody said, I want to work with Ania, what would they expect to happen working with you?
It will sound really simple, but most profound things are.
Yeah.
And I would say it's reconnecting to the truth of who you are. It's a way and a pathway for you to come home to yourself, where you're no longer second guessing yourself, you're no longer seeking external validation, and you're no longer shifting, adapting, or contorting yourself to please someone else or to fit into a box that you think you should fit based on societal, parental, neighbors, whatever it is, standards.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, to really connect so deep with your soul, so deep with your intuition, that every single thing that you say, every single thing that you do, how you walk into the room, how you embody every single space that you're in, whether online or offline, is really coming from your congruency. And that can only be done when you're honoring yourself and you're seeing your body as the greatest wisdom, as the greatest God that there is. And that's what somebody else thinks you should do or be.
Yeah, I think that is something that, well, I've been working on that personally for several years now. But really to understand how many filters we have placed on ourselves, so that the way that we view the world and how we view ourselves, and how many other filters have been placed there by other people. And like you said, society, the town we live in, our family, our whatever, where we work. There's so many filters of expectations. And when we don't want that anymore, in whatever way, shape, or form it might, show up in our lives, we're like, wait, that just doesn't feel right anymore. That just doesn't feel right. To have the courage to recognize it and to change it, and to be true to yourself in whatever way it is. I mean, it could be something as simple as somebody's been serving you their special recipe for years because they think you love it, because you've always said, it's so yummy. And then one day you're like, wait, I don't even like this. Why am I still eating this? And you have the courage to say, this has been so great that you've done this for so many years, but it's not my favorite anymore. Can we find a different recipe? I mean, really something like so simple as that, or something as extreme as major belief systems within you, or the way that you are in your family. So many things. We could go so many directions and talk for so many hours about this, but I'd love for you to share the best way for people to find you. And I will put it in the written part with this video so that it's easy for people, but go ahead and explain how someone can reach out to you, and where they can find out more about what you do.
Yeah, I think the easiest way is just Instagram. I share most often there, and you can see my latest offerings from free to not free. And, just get in touch. I'd love to hear from you, and always love connecting with new people that are on the same wavelength.
That is so great. Well, I love your story, and I know there's so many more pieces to it. There's so many other directions we could go boop, 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 and talk for hours and hours. But thank you for taking just a few minutes of your time and sharing it with the person that's watching right now. And I'm hoping that it makes a difference for you, whoever you are. And Ania, thank you so much. And I'm so glad that I got to meet you. You are an important part of my life.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.